When you reach your 60s and 70s, nobody warns you how quickly the years begin to change meaning. People tell you to save for retirement. They tell you to protect your health, take your medicine, and keep your important papers in order. But very few people sit beside you and explain the truths that become clearer only after time has already taken something away. And I'll tell you something I have learned, friends. Most people do not wake up at 80 wishing they had worried more. They wish they had spoken sooner, forgiven sooner, changed sooner, and lived with more courage while they still had the chance. The painful part is that many of these lessons were quietly appearing for years, but they were too busy, too afraid, or too comfortable to notice them. That is why I want to talk with you about 7 truths every senior deserves to understand before another decade passes. Not to frighten you, quite the opposite. I want these truths to help you protect the years still in front of you, because wisdom is most valuable when it arrives early enough to change the way you live. And the first truth is one many people understand only after too many years have already slipped away. Life does not always announce when an opportunity is closing. Sometimes it simply waits while you keep saying, later. There is a dangerous habit that grows quietly as people get older. You begin treating the present like a waiting room. You tell yourself you will travel when your knees feel better. You will call that old friend when life becomes less busy. You will start painting, gardening, writing, dancing, or learning something new when you have more energy. You will finally do something for yourself after everybody else is settled. But friends, everybody else may never be completely settled. There will always be another bill, another family concern, another appointment, another reason to wait. Life rarely clears the table and says, everything is perfect now. You may begin. Most meaningful things are started while life is still untidy. I knew a woman who talked for years about visiting the town where she grew up. She kept saying she wanted to walk past her old school, see the house where her parents lived, and sit near the river she remembered from childhood. But each year, she found a sensible reason not to go. The trip cost too much. The weather was not right. Her daughter needed help. She felt tired. She believed there would always be another summer. Then her health changed, and the journey became too difficult. What hurt her most was not simply missing the trip. It was realizing that she had been physically able to go for many years, but she had mistaken delay for patience. She thought she was waiting for the right moment. In truth, she was waiting for a moment life had never promised. Now, this does not mean you must spend money you do not have or ignore your responsibilities. It means you must stop believing that joy only counts when it is large, expensive, or perfectly planned. The life you keep postponing may be hiding inside very small decisions. Wear the good clothes instead of saving them. Use the beautiful dishes. Sit outside while the evening is still warm. Take the shorter trip. Invite someone for coffee. Begin the small project. Learn badly at first. Say yes to something that makes you feel awake again. And let me tell you something important, friends. You do not need permission to enjoy the years you worked so hard to reach. Many seniors feel guilty when they choose themselves because they spent decades being responsible for everyone else. But rest is not selfish. Pleasure is not foolish. Curiosity is not childish. Personal freedom is not something you outgrow. The real danger is not that you will try something and regret it. The greater danger is reaching 80 and realizing you spent your strongest remaining years preparing to live instead of living. Today is not the hallway leading to your real life. Today is part of it, and whatever can still be repaired, enjoyed, visited, expressed, or begun deserves more than another promise of someday. And once you stop postponing your own life, another uncomfortable truth begins to appear. You may discover that much of your time was not only delayed by responsibilities, it was also spent proving your worth by constantly being useful to other people. There comes a moment when the phone rings, and you already know what the person needs before they ask. Money, advice, a ride, a favor, someone to listen while they speak for an hour. You help because you care. You help because you have always been the dependable one, but somewhere inside, a quiet question begins to rise. Would they still come close if I had nothing to give? And I'll tell you something difficult, friends. Being needed can feel a lot like being loved. Both bring people to your door. Both make the phone ring. Both can make you feel important. But they are not the same. When people need you, the relationship may depend on what you provide. When people love you, they remain interested in who you are, even when you are tired, unavailable, confused, or unable to solve anything. They ask how you are doing and stay long enough to hear the honest answer. They do not only appear when their own life becomes difficult. Many seniors have spent decades becoming the family problem solver. They paid bills, watched grandchildren, settled arguments, lent money, gave advice, and kept everybody together. At first, this role brought purpose. But over time, it may have taught others that your needs always come last. The painful part is that people may not even realize they are using you. You trained them to expect your help by rarely saying no. You smiled when you were exhausted. You said, "It's fine," when it was not fine. You gave more than you could afford because disappointing someone felt worse than disappointing yourself. But love should not require you to disappear. Healthy closeness can survive a boundary. It does not collapse because you cannot provide money, time, or emotional rescue. A person who truly values you may feel disappointed when you say no, but they will not punish you for protecting yourself. They will adjust. They will still call. They will still want your company. This is why stepping back can reveal the truth. Stop fixing every problem immediately. Let grown people handle responsibilities that belong to them. Do not rush to fill every silence, settle every conflict, or save everyone from the consequences of their choices. At first, this may feel cruel because sacrifice has become part of your identity. But allowing others to become responsible is not abandonment. It is respect. And something surprising may happen. Some people will come around less often. That can hurt, but it also gives you clarity. Others will remain. They will sit with you without asking for anything. They will laugh with you, listen to you, and care about your inner life. Those are the relationships worth protecting. You do not have to earn love through exhaustion. You do not have to prove your value by being endlessly available. At this stage of life, you deserve connections where your presence matters more than your usefulness. And once you stop proving your value through sacrifice, you begin noticing something else. Sometimes the life holding you back is not controlled by other people. Sometimes it is built from the familiar things you have become afraid to question. There is a quiet danger in doing the same things for so long that they begin to feel like the only things you can do. The same morning routine, the same conversations, the same television programs, the same opinions repeated for years. The same people who expect you to remain exactly as they have always known you. At first, familiarity feels peaceful. It asks very little from you. You know where everything is, what everyone will say, and how each day will probably end. But friends, comfort and peace are not always the same thing. Peace makes you feel settled inside. Too much comfort can make your world smaller without you noticing. I once knew a man who complained that his days had become empty. His children encouraged him to join a local group, learn how to use a smartphone, and attend events at the community center. He rejected every suggestion. He said those things were not for people like him. Now listen carefully to those words. Not for people like me. That sentence has closed more doors than age ever did. It can stop a person from making friends, learning something useful, changing an old belief, or discovering a part of themselves that never had room to grow before. Many seniors think changing their minds means admitting that their earlier life was wrong. But wisdom does not require you to defend every belief you once held. You are allowed to see things differently after gaining new experience. You are allowed to outgrow ideas that were handed to you by your family, your generation, or the world you grew up in. Relationships can also become familiar prisons. You may remain close to someone only because you have known them for many years. Yet history does not always create health. A long friendship that constantly leaves you drained, belittled, or afraid to speak honestly may no longer deserve unlimited access to your life. The same is true of your environment. You may sit in the same chair every evening, shop at the same store, and follow the same route until weeks begin blending together. The mind needs something new to notice. Not danger, not chaos. Just enough difference to wake your attention. Take a class. Visit another part of town. Speak to someone outside your usual circle. Rearrange one room. Learn a skill that makes you feel clumsy at first. Read an opinion that challenges your own. Small changes remind the mind that life is still moving and that you are still capable of moving with it. And let me tell you something important, friends. Growing older does not mean your personality must become fixed. You are not a finished object. You are still a living person with the right to become more open, more curious, and more honest. Familiarity should be a place you rest, not a wall you cannot cross. Your later years can become wider, but only when you stop calling every closed door safety. And once you begin stepping beyond the familiar walls of your life, another truth becomes harder to ignore. Some prisons are not built from routines or fear. Some are built from old pain that nobody in the family has been willing to name. Resentment rarely stays inside one person. It leaks into the room. It changes the way people speak, the names they avoid, the invitations they do not send, and the stories children hear without ever being told the full truth. A disagreement that began between two adults can quietly shape an entire family for years. I knew a woman who had not spoken to her sister in nearly 20 years. The original argument began over their mother's belongings after the funeral. But as time passed, the conflict became larger than the furniture, jewelry, or money. Their children stopped visiting one another. Grandchildren grew up believing one side of the family was selfish and the other side was cruel. Young people inherited anger from an event that happened before some of them were born. And I'll tell you something important, friends. Silence does not always keep the peace. Sometimes silence only keeps the wound hidden while it continues affecting everybody nearby. Many older people avoid difficult conversations because they do not want trouble. They say the past should remain in the past. But pain does not disappear simply because nobody mentions it. It often returns through cold behavior, sharp jokes, favoritism, gossip, and distance. The family feels the tension even when nobody explains where it came from. Breaking this pattern does not mean gathering everyone together to accuse them. It means speaking honestly without turning honesty into a weapon. You can say, "That hurt me," without saying, "You have always been terrible." You can explain what happened without rewriting every memory to make yourself innocent. Sometimes healing begins with an apology, not an apology followed by an excuse. Not, "I'm sorry, but you made me do it." A real apology names the harm, accepts responsibility, and leaves room for the other person to decide what happens next. But reconciliation is not always possible. Some people will deny what happened. Others may continue behaving in harmful ways. In those situations, peace may require a clear boundary instead of a close relationship. Forgiveness does not mean returning to the same treatment. You can release bitterness while still protecting your emotional safety. The most important thing is refusing to recruit younger relatives into old battles. Do not make children choose sides. Do not ask grandchildren to carry messages, punish someone for you, or inherit your version of the conflict as their duty. They deserve the freedom to form relationships without carrying pain that belongs to an earlier generation. And friends, this may be one of the greatest gifts you leave behind. Not money, not property. A family story that becomes lighter because you had the courage to stop passing the hurt forward. And once you stop passing old pain into the next generation, another truth begins to come into view. Sometimes the pressure placed on adult children does not come from anger. Sometimes it comes from a parent who no longer knows who they are outside the role of being needed. For many people, parenthood becomes the center of life for so long that everything else slowly moves to the edge. You spend decades raising children, worrying about them, helping them, advising them, and arranging your days around their needs. Then one day, they become adults with homes, jobs, partners, children, and responsibilities of their own. The house becomes quieter, and a difficult question appears. Who am I when nobody needs me in the same way anymore? And I'll tell you something honest, friends. That question can hurt more than many people admit. Some parents respond by holding on more tightly. They expect daily phone calls. They feel rejected when visits are short. They become upset when holidays are shared with another family. They offer advice that was not requested, then feel unappreciated when it is not followed. Underneath all of this is often a deep fear. If my children are busy building their own lives, where does that leave me? But your adult children were never meant to become your entire emotional world. They can love you deeply and still need space. They can care about you and still be tired. They can value your wisdom and still make choices you would not make. Their independence is not proof that you failed. In many ways, it is proof that you succeeded. The problem begins when a parent expects a child to provide all companionship, purpose, comfort, and reassurance. That is too much weight for one relationship. A son or daughter should not feel responsible for keeping a parent from feeling lonely every evening. They should not have to hide opportunities, friendships, or travel plans because they fear causing guilt. And friends, guilt may keep people close physically, but it pushes them away emotionally. A healthier bond begins when you build a life that does not depend entirely on their availability. This does not mean becoming distant or pretending you do not need anyone. It means creating more than one source of meaning. Return to an interest you abandoned years ago. Build friendships with people who understand your season of life. Volunteer somewhere your experience can be useful without controlling anyone's future. Create routines that give your week shape. Set goals that belong to you, not to your children or grandchildren. It may feel strange at first because many seniors have spent years introducing themselves through family roles. Someone's mother, someone's father, someone's grandmother, someone's grandfather. Those roles are precious, but they are not the whole person. You still have thoughts, talents, questions, preferences, and dreams that exist beyond your family. And something beautiful happens when you reclaim them. Your children no longer feel like they must carry your happiness. Time together becomes lighter. Conversations become less demanding. Visits feel like connection instead of obligation. Your children are part of your identity, friends, but they should not be asked to replace it. Loving them well also means allowing them to go forward while giving yourself permission to keep growing too. And once you begin building a life that does not depend entirely on your children, you may find yourself looking backward more honestly. Without constant noise and responsibility, old choices can return to your mind. The road you did not take, the person you stopped calling, the dream you kept delaying until it no longer felt possible. Regret has a way of becoming louder in the later years. A quiet evening can suddenly bring back a decision from 30 years ago. You remember the job you refused, the marriage you stayed in too long, the apology you never gave, or the chance you were too afraid to accept. And before long, you begin putting your entire past on trial. But friends, regret was never meant to become a courtroom where you punish yourself every day. I knew a man who spent years talking about the business he should have started when he was younger. Every time someone else succeeded, he became bitter. He would say, "That could have been me." But he never asked the more useful question. What does this regret still want me to do now? That question changes everything. A regret may be telling you that creativity still matters to you. It may be showing you that a neglected relationship deserves one honest phone call. It may reveal that you have spent too many years living according to fear, pride, or other people's expectations. The past cannot be changed, but it can still give directions. And let me tell you something important, friends. You must judge your younger self with fairness. That person did not know everything you know today. They may have been frightened, tired, poorly advised, or trying to survive a situation nobody else fully understood. Wisdom always looks obvious after the years have passed. This does not mean avoiding responsibility. If you hurt someone, admit it. If a mistake can still be repaired, take the first step. If money is owed, repay what you can. If an apology is needed, give it without demanding forgiveness in return. But some regrets cannot be repaired directly. The person may be gone. The opportunity may have closed. Your health may no longer allow the original dream. In those moments, you must look for the deeper meaning beneath the regret. Perhaps you cannot take the long journey you once planned, but you can visit somewhere closer. Perhaps you cannot return to your old career, but you can teach what you learned. Perhaps a friendship cannot be restored, but you can become more careful with the relationships still in your life. Regret becomes destructive when it keeps your face turned backward while the present continues passing behind you. Its purpose is not to keep saying, "You failed." Its purpose is to say, "This still matters." So listen to what your regrets are trying to teach you. Let them show you what to repair, what to begin, what to release, and what never to neglect again. You do not honor the past by suffering forever. You honor it by allowing its lessons to change the way you live while time still remains. And once you stop using regret to punish the person you used to be, one final truth begins to rise. You may realize that some of your deepest exhaustion comes from trying to remain loyal to a version of yourself that no longer feels true. There comes a time when people know you by old names that have nothing to do with what you need now. The strong one, the quiet one, the provider, the person who never changes their mind, the one who keeps every promise, tolerates every burden, and never disappoints anyone. You may have carried that reputation for so long that changing feels almost dishonest. But friends, staying the same is not always integrity. Sometimes it is fear wearing respectable clothing. I knew a woman who had spent most of her life being known as the person who kept the entire family together. She hosted every holiday, remembered every birthday, settled every disagreement, and opened her home whenever someone needed somewhere to go. By her early 70s, she was tired, her health was changing, and the work no longer brought her joy. But she continued because everyone said, "That's just who you are." One afternoon, she told her children that she would no longer host the large family gathering. Some people were disappointed. One relative called her selfish. She nearly changed her mind because disappointing them made her feel like she had become a bad person. But something happened after she stayed with her decision. She felt relief. And let me tell you something important, friends. Relief is sometimes the first sign that an old identity has become too heavy. You are allowed to change your direction. You are allowed to admit that something you once wanted no longer fits you. You may decide that a promise made many years ago was based on fear, pressure, or information you no longer believe. You may discover that a role which once gave your life meaning is now keeping you from becoming more honest. This does not mean breaking commitments carelessly. It means asking whether you are protecting your values or merely protecting your reputation. Some seniors continue defending opinions they no longer truly believe because admitting they were wrong feels humiliating. But changing your mind after learning more is not weakness. It is evidence that life has taught you something. Wisdom is not the ability to remain correct forever. Wisdom is the courage to become more truthful. Other people may resist your growth because the old version of you was convenient for them. They may remind you of what you used to say, what you always did, or what they expected from you. Their discomfort does not automatically mean your decision is wrong. Peace begins when you stop performing a familiar character for people who refuse to see your growth. You do not have to spend your later years protecting every old label, role, promise, or belief. You are still allowed to become someone new. And perhaps the most honest way to finish life is not by proving that you never changed, but by allowing everything you learned to finally change you. These 7 truths come down to one simple lesson. Friends, your later years are not meant to be spent waiting, proving your worth, protecting old pain, or living as the person everyone expects you to be. You are still allowed to begin, to change, to set boundaries, to repair what matters, and to create a life that feels honest while time is still in your hands. Do not wait until 80 to discover that peace was possible sooner. Now tell me in the comments, which of these 7 truths spoke directly to your life? And what is one change you are ready to make? And if you want more honest lessons for living your later years with wisdom, courage, and fewer regrets, subscribe to the channel and join us for the next conversation.